I'm really interested in like the details that you don't necessarily always notice and what happens when you look closely at things. You know, I'm actually not a very mindful person in my day-to-day. Like I rush around and I like to be productive and I have a lot of ideas for things, and so often I've got like too many plates up in the air and I'm on the go, and then like I look around and I think like, why do I have this in my hand? I think that this process, like, they talk about it in terms of like the word flow, right? Like when you're just like completely absorbed in what you're doing. That's rare. Like when do we get to have that? I started when I was 18 and I was at York and I hated it. And so I was looking for something to kind of way to cope, and I took an adult, like a continuing education class with for adult learners like through the high schools. And the only one that was available that was close enough to the campus was ceramics. And so I just started playing with clay then. And I was quite bad at it. Like they'd give you these big honks of clay and say, make a mug. And I'd think, oh great, I made a mug. And I'd, leave the room and come back and I'd be like, or a beer stein, like I had no sense of like proportion but I just really enjoyed the feel of like watching a whole bunch of people be given the same lump of clay and each of them making something completely different from one another and turning it into something was a process that I found really mesmerizing. I left York and came to Kingston a year later, and I found a local potter who lived quite close to Queens and offered courses in her basement, and I just took classes with her. And then over the years, she kind of mentored me, and I learned how to load the kiln and mix glazes, and I would do some work for her that way in exchange for more studio time. And then I just kept at it that way. But like I did lots of other things, like I did lots of other degrees, but all the time I just kept doing pottery like on the side. Yeah, I couldn't really let go of it somehow. Like it just was something that I needed to do. I think that there's like a state of being that I get to enter when I'm working with clay that is not a kind of mental place that I go to easily in other parts of my life. Like a space where everything else like disappears and I'm just totally engrossed in what I'm doing. There's something about that space that I've realized is actually really important to my sense of well-being. I was always figuring out ways of introducing art into like my kind of work. So obviously I just like feel like I also need that kind of creative outlet. I think our culture often doesn't really just stop and connect and look at what's around us. I like it when people take time with objects. And so if people spend time with my pieces, and I mean, one of the great ways of discovering something more deeply is to have a relationship with it. And when you use an object, that's a phenomenal way to have a relationship with it. Or when you use it in your daily life and with other people, then it becomes like infused with memory and maybe sense of connection to other people. Like all of that can happen with handmade pots, which is why too, I think I'm still making pottery. Getting to experience this process and getting to make things is such like a joy for me personally. And then if other people can also experience some of that when they use the object, then that makes it even more powerful for me.